Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Phone Booth Fighting, the podcast covering the world of mixed martial arts. And today, with a focus on boxing, with myself, Richard Hunter, and my good friend there and co-host of 5+ years now, that's Frank Meir over there. Check out youtube.com/Phone Booth Fighting. That's our YouTube channel, and we post all the episodes there. Like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and you can subscribe to the audio feed wherever podcasts are available, as so many of you do, and we appreciate you doing that. All right, well, you can probably guess what the focus of tonight's show is going to be. And I say tonight's show, Frank and I are burning the midnight oil. We're taping late because in appreciation to all the people that have been listening to us for these 5+ years, we wanted to give you guys Frank's first-person reaction to his boxing debut from Saturday night before anybody else got it, because Frank's got a lot of interviews to do, but he wanted to talk to you guys about it first. So that's what we're going to do. Frank, before you say anything, can I just brag on you for a minute? Would you mind?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just give you a minute? All right. Let me just tell you something. And I texted you this after the fight, but as your true close friend, I am so proud of you. This was so cool because you take on a guy. I mean, you're been a professional mixed martial artist at the highest level, but you make it to an age now where most MMA fighters are retiring. And certainly most are retiring without having won a world title, let alone a couple, So you've accomplished all those things, but you want to do this first. You want to have this first experience post 40. I thought I was the only person on this podcast that was dumb enough to do things like that.
But you inspired me.
That's what it is. But you decided to have a professional boxing match, but against a world champion. This is a guy, if people don't follow boxing closely, this is a guy who's had 40 professional fights. He's won 30 of them. He's a former world title holder. Twice. He fought Antonio Tarver to a draw, another world champion who was going to be your original opponent. He dropped Tyson Fury. I mean, this guy.
Not only did he drop Tyson Fury, something that, and I can actually send you the scorecards because Gabe to me. We were having this discussion about how good he is. When he got dropped in that 7th round and finished, it was an 8-round fight with Tyson Fury. He was up by 2 rounds of the scorecards and a draw on the other one. Meaning that, for those at home that don't follow boxing, that closely, had that fight gone to a decision at that point, even with Tyson winning the round, if he hadn't knocked him out and knocked him down, basically, Tyson loses a decision.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it wasn't like it was a fluke and that's the only punch he landed. He was winning the fight against our current world champion heavyweight.
Yes. So, you couldn't get a more legitimate opponent for somebody that's going to be. And the other thing is you gave up age advantage. You were going to have that with Antonio Tarver. I mean, you had a couple of years on him, but it wasn't going to be quite the gap that it was with Antonio Tarver. So all that being said, I mean, it was going to be cool if you did it no matter what. It was going to be cool if, just for taking the fight and making the attempt. But I don't think anybody would have slighted you. Certainly I wouldn't have if the fight would have happened and I could have looked at it and said, well, yeah, but Frank's been fighting MMA his whole career. That's a professional boxer. Of course, it might have looked a little lopsided. It didn't. Here's the thing. It was a competitive fight. It went 6 rounds. You won at least a couple of those rounds. Certainly on my card, definitely on one of the judges' scorecards. And we're going to talk more about this. I'm not going to do all the talking here. I'm going to turn the floor over to you. But before we get done with this episode, I do want us to talk about how so much of this event did have a bizarre spectacle around it. But you guys, it's like a competitive boxing match broke out in the midst of a pretty chaotic, a chaotic spectacle. And I think what's interesting about that is it wasn't the boxing match between the two boxers. It was the boxing match between the world champion boxer and the world champion mixed martial artist. So for that, you deserve all the credit, man. I told you as soon as this fight happened, as soon as you got back to the locker room, I said, you looked like a professional boxer in there. And to me, I think that's the best compliment you could get. I saw you say earlier,
the best compliment. The best.
You know, yeah, because you had made, I think, at the post-fight press conference, you had said something along the lines of, hey, if I'd have dropped him with a shot early, knocked him out, yeah, highlight reel, whatever. But that doesn't really say, oh yeah, I can hang with a pro boxer. That means I landed a solid shot. You can't argue what you did over 6 rounds.
No, that's actually, first and foremost, that was what I wanted to accomplish. I wanted to show that as a artist, we might not be the most elite boxers because that's not our specialty. There are certain things that you can do in boxing that we can't do in MMA. So we're still going to be limited at what we can do with our boxing skills because there's many things that I can't spend hours a day training because they're useless tools to me as an MMA fighter. They'll get me choked or a knee to the face or easily taken down or kicked in the leg. I mean, just to name a few of the things that take away some of the defensive tools that a defensive boxer use defensively that I don't have access to. So knowing that, I really didn't want to go into this, and that's one thing that really made me even that much like John Wood more. He goes, hey, 2 things. Well, he added the first, and I agreed with him, and I added the second. We knew about 6 weeks out from this that we were in a fight with Tarver. He goes, in 6 or 7 weeks, you're not going to gain what he has gained in 30 years of experience. It's foolish to think that. And then I said, and I agree with you, and to add to that, I don't want to add those to my game. Because if we spend hours with me rolling under punches, I can't take that with me to MMA. It's not going to work, And in fact, I know that firsthand because I used a boxing defense against Mark Hunt by trying to roll under a punch and expose the back of my ear. I took a punch on the back of the head, and in boxing they would have called it, but in MMA they don't. And so I learned from that fight, look, there's certain things that boxing can give us as MMA fighters. There's just some things you can't. I mean, I can say that with any of the sports that contribute to MMA. There's things in jiu-jitsu that you can do in an MMA fight for over. There's a lot of stuff in jiu-jitsu. I mean, I like watching a lot of the foot lock and leg lock stuff. It's really evolving. But there's some stuff that I'm sorry that if you try to do that in a fight, the guy's going to hammer fist you upside your head. You're against the pavement, or against the mat. And so, wrestling. I love wrestling. I push my daughter and my kids very hard in the wrestling department. There's certain moves in wrestling that I'm like, guys, that'll never, ever work in an MMA fight. Head taken off. But there is obviously a lot that does. And so we stick to those and try to transfer back and forth. And I think I said that in the post-fight interview, where even when I go and do grappling matches, people might think my jiu-jitsu is basic, but that's because I only train moves that I know that I can employ in an MMA fight. I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing certain guards that are very low percentage in MMA, but work very well in grappling, because it's like, well, then I have a game that I can't use. So why waste the time,
Yeah. Yeah. And it was clear that you had gone into the fight with a strategy of kind of what we talked about leading up to this, which is that you would have an advantage as a lifelong mixed martial artist, knowing how to grapple without grappling. In other words, grappling isn't part of this, but when the tie-ups and the clinches come, that's obviously something he was trying very hard to avoid with you. And because at his elite level, was able to use his skills somewhat to combat that. But man, you really made that, in my opinion, a formidable tool of your game plan, which was tying him up. I like to think you did it so that you could get the commentators to say phone booth fighting as many times as they did, because that was a repeated, that was a frequent refrain. I appreciated that as the producer of the podcast. So thanks for that.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't predict what the commentary was going to be like.
We'll get to that.
Yeah. But no. And again, there were certain things that are always going to hold me back. People keep asking me, like, could I have come in lighter? Could I have worked on this? And again, I'm like, yeah, but then it kind of takes away from the fact that I'm specializing in boxing to take away from my MMA. I kind of used the when I was talking to my son, Cage, about lifting weights. I'm like, hey, lifting weights is a tool for us, and we can do powerlifting type workouts and strongman like workouts and take some of that with us to help you become a better football player. But if you specialize and we take away from your body just so that you can deadlift a little bit more, you can squat more, or increase your bench press, now we're becoming specialists in powerlifting. Now we're losing sight of what the objective is. And really, even though I want to go competitive and win, I want to win with the objective of I'm going to use MMA boxing in a boxing match.
Yeah. So tell me, all right. So let me ask you some basics.
And then, sorry, on the clinch part, that was one part that really, again, that just shows you how it's a deficit for us when we fight a boxer. Because like in the clinch, I'm really having two thoughts. I'm thinking, oh, I could do this, I could do that. Like my instincts are showing me what to do. It isn't MMA training for the last 30 years went out the window. I'm feeling knee taps and body locks and snap downs to front headlock to knees and punches. I'm having a talk, like I'm like, yeah, that could happen. Don't do it. Oh, I could do that. Don't do that either. Oh, here, don't do it. Actually in there. And it probably made me look almost cautious, because my wife a couple times pointed out, she goes, I felt like you could have been more aggressive. I'm like, babe, I'm like holding on to a raging bull here. I have to really keep it focused on what I'm doing, because if I too aggressive, then I'm going to revert back to some of the techniques that I've spent 30 plus years training, and I'm in a heated battle, it's going to come out, and I can't have that happen. Because the one thing that I was, maybe Ben might have had that in his contract, or maybe it wasn't explained correctly, but just so people at home understand, had I done something illegal in the fight, like say I used my knee to sweep him down and deem it a foul, and somehow Steve gets hurt and he can't continue. So now I'm essentially disqualified for a foul. Well, in the state of Georgia, the commission, you don't get paid.
Yeah.
I lose my whole purse. And I love to fight. I do it because I love it first and foremost. But if I have to go back to that booth and tell Mrs. Muir that I just did it for free, I'm a hobo now. I'm packing my bags, tell the kids I love them, send me letters. I ain't going up there.
Yeah. No. I think that would be worse than just about any knockout punch that could get landed. Yeah, you don't want to feel that one. Yeah. By the way, for those watching on YouTube, Frank's house is not on fire. He's smoking a cigar. The cigar is a little bit off frame, so it really just looks like there's the house is smoldering behind you. But yeah, there you go. Just
well, I took yesterday was a travel day, and I did have a cigar last night. But then today the kids were home and hung out with me, and I'll smoke cigars outside. But when they're around me in the house,
yeah,
I want to smoke a cigar in their face. So now, luckily, I have the whole house. The downstairs is mine, so I opened up the window and sneaking a cigar.
And here we are with you, the phone booth fighting listener. All right, so you alluded to the instincts, and that's kind of where I wanted to start. So you're telling me that because of all the years of mixed martial arts training, that it wasn't even enough just to do the boxing training camp and go, okay, I'm just going to flip a switch and it's going to shut off anything but striking. It's in there. I'm pointing in my head right now. If you're not watching the video, I mean, it's in there. So you're saying even in the fight, even though you specifically trained a full camp for this fight, you're still in there having that conversation with yourself, reminding yourself not to do those things because it's such muscle memory now.
Absolutely. In fact, one of the things, thank goodness, I only spent about 2 weeks practicing not to do. And that's because Leo, the tall Russian kid that came down and started sparring with me a bunch towards the end, 6'6" guy, super long reach, good amateur career, 60+ fights, 2-0, 30-year-old kid. So great lungs, legs, really good jab. And so, one of the things I did to him, and in the middle of sparring the first day, he goes, hey, man, that's illegal. I'm like, what? What I was doing was every time I anybody, I would reach over their arm and I would encircle. And for anybody who can't watch at home, I'm basically doing an overhook.
Yeah.
Where a whizzer, you straighten your arm. That's the difference between a whizzer and, you pry on the thigh or the stomach and you're pushing off. A whizzer or an overhook, you're actually encircling and you hold. And I would hold people's arms to tie them up, to hang on them as part of my weapon. And I kind of used my shoulders to jerk people around, throw punches, and I was kind of really towing the line on what would be probably considered legal and for a boxing move. But then when I did it to Leo, he in the middle of sparring, he goes, "Hey, just so you know, you don't have to stop doing it to me, but they're going to call you on that." Meaning that if you encircle someone's arm, your arm has to stay at least 30 degrees or more. You can't bend your hand towards your bicep to basically hug and your arm. He goes, if you do that, they'll call you on it. As long as your arm stays, you can't bend it more than 30 degrees to encircle the arm. So there was a technique that I had actually been training the whole time that I use in MMA that now I thought I could use in boxing. And then the last, hard week of sparring, no, can't do that, And so that was also something that I tried not to do in the fight, that I really had to tell my, don't do it. Because I, again, didn't want to, I thought it was a very close fight round by round, as far as I'm like, especially sitting on the stool, I have Stitch behind me. And I told him beforehand, hey, I'm not, don't tell me I'm winning if I'm not. Don't, tell me I'm losing when I am winning, because you want to inspire me. Like, just deal me the card straight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, according to Stitch, it was 3-3. I thought it was actually at least 2-4, and so I didn't want to give up any points. And I know boxing is very, subjective at the same time. So I knew they were close. And so I'm like, if I lose a point, I'm for sure not, because, I'm really just on its heels trying to close the distance.
I thought from a scoring standpoint that there were a couple of pivotal points in the fight that you could look at where I thought maybe you could see where a round could get stolen either way. You landed, I think it was at the end of the third, like a really solid shot, right? So to me, that could arguably be your round.
That's what I was thinking. The end of the third round, I thought in my brain, up until that point, it was his round. I mean, in my head, I'm like, shit, I didn't win this round. But I landed a double straight left, and I connected decent on it. He was rolling off of it, so I didn't get the full force of the shot on it. He was able to see it the last second, so he moved enough to where it took some of the energy off. He's an experienced boxer. He rolled with it enough. But even he was like, oh, damn, good shot. And so I knew that, I wonder if, because I'm trying, and at that moment, I'm like, I don't think he landed it, and that's going to get in this round. He just landed more than I did. Could that have stolen me this round? So that's why when they calling out scores, in the back of my mind, I'm like, holy shit, I could very possibly be sitting on the cusp of a draw right now, which would have been just epic. I thought, I'm like, I for sure won 2 rounds. And out of the 4, one of them, especially with being kind of that combo at the end, I'm like, I might have stole one here or there. And now we're talking, this is 57-57. I at least thought it was going to be 58-56. And the one judge agreed with me. And then the other 2 judges, which kind of goes to, someone about the show, when they had it 60-54, I'm all, not 1 round. The other guy thought I won 2 rounds, and you guys don't even think I won a single round. But I think that has a lot to do with the commentary was being directly to them. So they're listening to the commentators, which was just atrocious.
I need to. I was going to say, and we're going to get to all that in a second. But but this point of clarification, though, because some people may not have realized this, and you can clear it up. My understanding is the commentary is being piped into like the arena over the sound.
I was listening to it while I was fighting. That's why there was one time with one of the shots that Cunningham, he landed a shot on me, and you see me circle with my back to the ropes, and I'm facing the commentators, and I actually, probably shouldn't have done that, but I took the time to look at them going, like what the fuck are you guys? You know what I mean? Like I could hear them going, oh my God, Mir's almost down. I'm like, and for a second I even hesitated, because when you get a concussion, you might not be aware that, you're hurt like that. So I'm sitting there going, I'm not even like on a top 20 shots I've ever taken in my career, that's not even on the radar. You know what I mean? So I'm like looking at it, I'm like, what are you guys watching? And then like it started dawning on me, listening to the commentary. I'm like, oh, you guys don't want me to even do well. Like, I'm being brought in here to lose. And not only, and I understood that, I was the MMA fighter coming into the boxing ring, but I think some of the people that were commentary hate MMA. And I think there was an excuse for them to sit there and go, look at one of your champions getting completely embarrassed by a boxer. When I realized that, like, you guys can't appreciate that this is a good fight going on right now. And then the other part that actually really started upsetting me is that they were being very negative about Cunningham, that he wasn't doing a great job, that he could have been more aggressive doing that. I'm thinking in my head, I'm all, you guys realize they got 70 pounds on him. And he's felt me because I hit him a couple times in the forearms that actually threw him against the ropes, where there was he blocked, and I purposely threw hard enough to when I hit him in the arms that it would hurt his arms. And so he felt that. So he's not in there. No, he's in there with me. They're not. So he's very aware of what's going to happen if I can land. He's being cautious. I'm like, the guy's being smart. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's fighting a slick battle. He has speed and reach on me, and he's utilizing those. It just really shocked me coming from De La Hoya, who, very much is a, very skilled boxer throughout his career, intelligent guy. For him not to pick up on that, and then for their hatred of MMA to come out the way it did, I was like, wow, you appreciate mixed martial arts. Like, I feel like in a way, it was almost kind of like you could tell now that they hate the fact that if we're all sitting at the table and I'm there, or any other MMA fighter of any ability, they realize that they're not the big fish. That a rapper or a music star, you have zero chance. There's a reason why you have a bodyguard. I don't. You know what I mean? So I think that they came out, and it just bothered me. And obviously I had the fight, and I got to enjoy the fight with Steve. I think people at least got to see that, that while I was fighting, Steve, when he would land a good shot, I mean, I was like, hey man, good shot, And then a couple times when I landed some good shots on him, he's saying, like, hey, we're being smartasses because we're fighting each other. I remember I landed one shot on him really good, set him up, with a level change, and came up and caught him. And he was like, oh, good shot. It ain't gonna happen again though. Like we were having war, and we loved it.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say about him is that, and I keep teasing the commentary thing because I have a lot to say about that. We'll get to that here in a minute, but I don't want to take away from what the accomplishment was first, because I want to make sure we cover that thoroughly, because to me, it was, if I were explaining the scoring to somebody, I would point out a few times, like that shot in the third, there was a shot in the second, I thought was real solid from him, but for the most part, it was a dichotomy in style. It's like you said, he's using speed, he's using reach, he's using the fact that he's a pure boxer to try to use his precision. You're trying to tie him up. You're trying to keep him close. You're trying to use your weight advantage, and you did, and he did. See, that's the thing. Neither one of those strategies wasn't working. It was a give and take. So to me, when I score those kind of fights, it kind of, what you're really trying to figure out is who did their thing more than the other person. But a lot of times what can factor into that too, and I think this is just where human element and judging comes in, is what do you score more highly? And if you're a boxing judge, what are you used to watching more? Do you have more of an appreciation for the guy who counterpunches, or do you have an appreciation for the aggressor? If there was somebody who lives and dies by the aggressor, they would have scored that fight for you. If it's somebody who is used to watching more pure counterpunching and that kind of thing, maybe they went with but that's the thing. It wasn't, that was the great thing about it. To me, I mean, this sounds cliche, but there isn't a loser, in my opinion, because it was like you had your own set of goals that you accomplished. He looked great. I mean, this wasn't a situation where it was a guy who hadn't fought in a few years and hadn't had a win in a few years past that, and he comes in and you're like, okay, this guy hadn't been training. Wasn't like that at all.
Yeah, he's a coach. Coaches his son. He runs a boxing team, has his own gym. So I mean, the guy's extremely active, and I think that is what representation of himself. And he did a great representation of boxing. He used the science to avoid my power and my size.
Now, so before we say, because there's, we're not going to be the first people to point this out to anybody because this commentary has been talked about a lot. I want to say this too, that I think this promotion deserves credit for paying you guys what you deserved, because this was a very respectable payday. I mean, those figures are public, but to me, it was respectable on their end, but also you guys lived up to that payday. See, so to me, I think I'm just looking at it from your business standpoint, but one of the other nice little elements about it, I thought, was, man, you know what? You would have no problem saying, yeah, I would love to box again. Here's my going rate. And I don't think anybody's going to sneeze at that, because they're going to look back on this card and look at, someone had this, I want to find it. Let me see if I can find this tweet real quick, because I want to give credit where credit is due. Oh, hell. I don't know. I can't find it. Anyway, Luke Thomas retweeted it, but he wasn't the one who said it. Somebody else tweeted something to the effect of, lost in all of the spectacle of this event is the fact that Frank Mir is in the middle of a very competitive and respectable boxing match. And so, on a personal level, like I said, I think that's the best thing you could take away from it. And the fact that now, you tell me whether or not you want to do this again, but I just like the fact that you can, here's the thing, you can do it again if you want to, and you can do it, in my opinion, at a very high level and financially profitable level. I think you earned that.
I agree with you. Yeah, no, I was very happy with a lot of the things about the show, and obviously we could talk about the things I wasn't happy about, but
let's get into that. Let's get into that.
Hold on before we get going, because I'm going to fill my water up real quick. So could you pause it?
We're not doing right. Get stay hydrated for this. What?
Are we on YouTube too at the same time? Or is this all taped?
Yeah, but we're just taping, so we're okay. Okay, cool. Just make it quick. I'll fill. Fortunately, Frank's wearing pants. You never know around that Mir household, but he's going to fill up his water bottle. Now, we see there in the background, I think that's the boxing robe that Frank wore to the ring. That's Frank never did that. He never went full Phil Baroni in MMA, so never had the boxing robe. So he's got at least one robe now to go along with the couple of UFC heavyweight titles that are on the mantle there. I can't tell if that thing's on a mannequin or it's just hung up on a nail. If you're watching us on our YouTube channel, maybe you can tell. We should get him some kind of mannequin to put that thing on, or maybe like a life-size cutout of himself that could wear the robe. That would be good. I'll take a second to mention our social media. If you don't already follow us there, please do. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, we're all those places. Phone Booth Fighting on Facebook and Instagram, Phone Booth Fight on Twitter. I'm at Richard Hunter, and Frank is at the Frank Mir. I think I hear Frank rustling around there, maybe about to come back any second, hopefully. What you got there in the background too is a couple of pictures from Frank's first couple of fights there in the frame. With one of those is Roberto Traven. I can't remember what the other one is, what other fight that is from. All right, our Patreon page, I'll mention that too. Well, I got a couple other things to plug, or a minute or two to do it. Check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/phone booth fighting. We throw up some bonus content over there for you guys as premium subscribers to help support the show. A couple episodes we did just in the last couple of weeks. We did an Easter episode and one other one that are up there exclusively on the Patreon page. And we also have some of our live shows from the comedy clubs back pre-pandemic. Before we could do that, there is a full-length concert that we did with Chael Sonnen and Big John McCarthy in Chicago at the Laugh Factory up there. That was a lot of fun. And a couple other things. I think maybe some of Frank's stand-up is up on there too, as well as my own. All right. I hear him rustling around back there. Frank moves around the kitchen about like a heavyweight, if you're wondering. It's not really a speed contest. Okay, he's back. There he is. All right, I plugged everything I could think of there, Frank, while you were refilling the water bottle. All right, so I'm going to throw out a few things about this commentary, okay, and then you're going to react, of course. First of all, across the panel there was Al Bernstein, who is a legit decorated
1,000%,
top-notch play-by-play or color boxing analyst. That's all the reason he was there. Multi-world champion Oscar De La Hoya, you got him there. More on him in a minute. Snoop Dogg, because it's Snoop Dogg. And then one or two other people. I don't know who the heck those people were. First of all, I don't care if this is HBO boxing in its heyday. A 5-man commentary team is a terrible idea. All right. First things first, poor Al Bernstein. I think, look, I'm sure he got a nice paycheck for doing this. And I'm sure that's why he was doing it. I thought at a certain point with Al Bernstein, to me, it looked like he just saw what this was. Like he's just getting overrun. And Snoop Dogg is yelling out the N-word and yelling people owe him $2 million and all this kind of thing. And so to me, at one point, Al Bernstein was just kind of, I don't want to say checked out, but he was just like, okay, this is what it is. And I can't keep this ship steered straight. So I'm just going to sit here. You posted about this on your social media, and you can talk about this in a second, but Oscar De La Hoya, this wasn't Oscar De La Hoya, the multi-time world champion who's going to sit down and provide some insightful color analysis. This looked to me like an impaired Oscar De La Hoya. And this looked to me like, people just sitting around in somebody's living room, and everybody's just kind of yelling at the television, but they're not doing it and then broadcasting it. They're not doing it and then like as they're part of the commentary. When they're in your living room, they're yelling over the commentary. What made this different was they were the commentary. And in some of these situations, I'm going to make you and I sound old for a second, but I'm going to ask you a question. I wonder, let's just say that you apply this to like the Jake Paul thing, okay? Or the slap fighting or whatever that we'll get into in a second. Maybe in those cases, this is what kids want. Maybe if they're going to buy this pay-per-view, they want Snoop Dogg yelling the N-word over Jake Paul knocking out Ben Askren. I don't know. But that's not what I want. And it's definitely not what I would want if there's a legitimate contest going on. Like, even if they had said, okay, for what's going to be a legitimate boxing match, or if there was a legitimate MMA contest or something, we're going to have more traditional commentary for this. And then once we get to the crazy stuff, we're going to bring in the crazy rappers and, and inebriated Oscar De La Hoya if you want to do that or whatever. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, I wonder if part of this, as objectionable as it was to me, is not maybe just part of the package when they're doing this kind of crazy marketing. Your thoughts?
Well, no, I think that Snoop Dogg, they knew what he brings to the table, and Al Bernstein brought a certain table. I think that they tried to make the commentary kind of like the show, where it's a little bit of everything. We have legitimate fights, we have MMA versus boxing, we have celebrity versus somebody, and then we even had that were pissed at each other with no boxing experience fighting. So the show was a collaboration of different genres occurring. So I felt the commentary crew was supposed to kind of be that way too. So really, I think what killed it for me was that exactly what you would expect and want if you're going to click onto something that Snoop Dogg is commentary on. Al Bernstein was exactly, until he kind of just threw in the towel a little bit, what they expected of him. I don't think they expected Oscar De La Hoya to drop the ball the way he did. And so I think he was supposed to be the fighting expert that was a former champion, Olympian, and say, okay, now we need the also technical guy that's in there to also give our educated fans at home that are watching this, giving us insight to what's going on during this fight. And he dropped the ball so badly. He was more of the spectacle than Snoop Dogg was. So now
Yeah.
you had too much of it, and there wasn't any balance. I thought that the idea of having the different characters made sense, but they were fitting. They were almost kind of like, here was the wizard, the thief, and the rogue, and the warrior. You know what I mean? Like, everybody can relate to somebody here now in this, and we're going to go forward. Each one has their own set of skills and weaknesses so that we can make this a team. The problem was that there was too many jesters. There wasn't enough, the scholars that were supposed to be out there. And that's, again, the role that, De La Hoya was supposed to be encompassing was the savvy, experienced that knows a lot about boxing. And, and he does. But somehow some personal issues that look like he's going through right now bled through and really honestly became the narrative of the commentary so than what was going on in the ring.
Yeah. And that's, allegedly, I mean, neither one of us have any, I mean, I assume you don't, I don't have any inside information as to what was going on with him, but look, whatever it was.
De La Hoya made it very obvious there that there was multiple people that were eyewitnesses to some behavior that was, less than inspiring. And actually, to say as another warrior who, in myself, look, I have no issues with people being valuable. We all are, to different levels. I am definitely not a mistake-free individual that doesn't have my scars and bumps in the road that I can learn from. And I kind of feel that probably gives me a more understanding outlook on De La Hoya. I know what it's like to have a chemical altering your brain. You just, hey, look, I don't make no bones about it. My wife even did the, whole interview talking about that because of my accident, I struggled with pain pills, I mean, I became an opiate addict, and if you'd have asked me if I was addicted to pain pills, I'd have said, nah, man, I'm in pain all the time, and I just do this to take the edge off. Really? 300 pills a month? You're taking the edge off the pain, and so a lot of those excuses are grounded in reality, but they're blown out of proportion. And again, when it's your brain that's hurt, you know what I mean? It's hard to make right decisions, and it's hard to see yourself for what you are. I'm really hoping that De La Hoya can use this as a wake-up call. Hopefully he has some people in his life like I had in my life, or have in my life, like my wife and my children. And my wife is a savvy person, and she knew what I was going through. I didn't hide nothing from her. Couldn't, But I mean, she bit the bullet. She took on my wrath and my anger to confront me on it and go, hey, here's a mirror. I want you to see how ugly you are right now. And that's scary, you know what I mean? Because, I was her lifeline financially. She's going to have to go back to working a job if I get too mad and I want to leave her. So the people in De La Hoya's life, I'm sure he has a lot of people that are on payroll. And I just hope that somebody cares enough that they're willing to take a chance of sacrificing to hold a mirror up to him and be like, hey, buddy, this isn't you. This is, you're better than this. And, and get him the help that he needs and point him in the direction to do it. Ultimately, it's your decision whether you want to get better or not. On a side note, that's actually why, a lot of people are making fun of him that he wants to fight again at 57 years old. But I think it's a good thing. I really hope he does take a fight, because if you get him back in the gym and he's putting the gloves on and he's hitting the road and he's working out, it puts him back in that lifestyle that you can't be out high every night and go show up at the gym. His performance will suffer, especially at 57 years old. Imagine. And so I think he's going to have more days sober than he's going to have high. And hopefully that'll open up the window to bring him back into the fold so that he can be a warrior again and be something that we all respect, his wife. I mean, I don't want to see anybody, on that type of stage humiliate themselves like that. That hurts, you know what I mean? And it's funny because here he's making fun of me, he's making fun of Steve, taking away from what inside the ring is two warriors. And there's a part of me that was a little bit resentful and angry. I'm like, hey, man, you're a warrior. You're not supposed to be the guy who's never fought, drinking beer, making fun of the two guys in the ring. You're above that. That's not you. That's not you. You are one of us. You're one of us. And so to have one of us, to have a warrior falling like that and put on the clown suit and act like a clown, it hurts more. And so I guess instead of even being angry with him, I was just hurt, like going, man, you're the golden boy. I mean, you're Oscar De La Hoya. Like, come on, man. You know what I mean? Like, this can't be how you go out, dude. Like, no. Like, So I mean,
you just said something, and I had not thought about this until you just said it. But this is a great way you putting it. What you just did. I'm used to hearing that voice, but it's the idiot sitting next to me at a fight, and it's not the person on the microphone. And so to a fan, it's probably initially like, some loud. Wait a second, this is the person they gave the microphone, and it's Oscar De La Hoya. It's not even just some random Joe that they put a microphone in front of. Well, you know what? You took the high road with it, and I commend you for that. Because listen, you could be angry.
Well, there's parts that maybe the most angry, where I was a little like, okay, I'm going to get you. Was when I walked, upstairs, and my wife and my children and my father had to do it. Do you know what I mean? Like, that hurt me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That, to see them ready to, pitchforks and and torches in hand, ready to go, get him. That hurt me. That it hurt them. That talking about, he was speaking that way about me and Cunningham. So like, that's the part where there was initial anger from me, because I was hurt to see my family, my loved ones. Here's supposed to be an extremely joyous moment, and it was joyous. But then, like, we're sitting there, all right, let's sit down, and then they're like, oh my God, commentary, and then boom, Jen just goes off on one, Uncle Eddie, and my father, he's doing the open jaw, shaking his head, and I'm like, oh, I know that look. This is bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The anger. So that upset me. But then just knowing that he's fallen like that, then I could have taken jokes and been like everybody else who just sees somebody who's down and out and go, oh, you know what? Here's my opportunity to step on you. Here's my opportunity to point out your flaws, and we can laugh at you.
Yeah.
But that doesn't help anybody. He's not gonna get through to him. I'm hoping that he could sit there and go, hey, I'm the one you were talking shit about, and here I'm sitting there going, hey, I respected you before, and I think I could respect you again. If we just get you help, I'm better than you. I was you. I mean, I don't think he has a problem with pain pills. My sneaky suspicion from what people were witnessing outside in the hallway he was doing, obviously it looks like a cocaine issue, and so, we all have our demons, and so, but, hopefully him hearing what I have to say about it will open up his eyes and maybe get to him a little bit. You know what I mean? Want to do. You want to help somebody out. You want to sit there and go, hey, what information can I give you? Some people need tough love. Some people maybe being embarrassed gets to them. And maybe those people that are clowning him, that's what gets to him. I realized Monday morning that there's going to be 99% of the world was making fun of him. And so I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead and maybe go this route and just kind of explain to him, like, friend to friend, warrior to warrior, hey, man, you need to, this is bad. You know what I mean? And it doesn't have to be. We can, there's ways to fix this.
It was the right message. And, also I put the blame, I mean, other than if that's what he was up to, but I also put a lot of blame on the production, because listen, if he'd have shown up like that, HBO wouldn't have put him on the air. Showtime wouldn't have put him on the air. ESPN wouldn't have put him on the air if it was a UFC broadcast. So unfortunately, it was probably the perfect storm where you show up in that shape, and it also happens to be on a spectacle of a pay-per-view, and they're looking for crazy, and they got it, and that certainly didn't help the situation.
I don't think he was supposed to bring the crazy. That's why, hopefully, if I'm not on the next Triller card and they need somebody to step in and fill that expert role that can help balance out some of the, like, the comedy and the different, the different aspects that some of the other characters up there are black belts at, and they can bring. I'll bring the martial arts aspect to it and break it. So that voice is being represented. That out of the 3 to 6, however it's going to end up, people, or buys that we're in, the several million people at home watching, the certain are like you and I who want to have intelligent conversation and hear, and I get it. There's a lot of kids that want to see the goofy shit going on, and the weed and the twerking, and like, hey man, it's all there. I get it. But like, I think that this ensemble cast of just here's something for everybody. There wasn't something for us warriors, the people at home that are, us fighters, the true martial arts fans and MMA, that were tuning in to watch that aspect of it, that you might enjoy the other aspects too, but you needed also to fill and scratch that itch. We weren't represented. You know what I mean? And De La Hoya, Al Bernstein did the best he could, but he was a lone voice that night.
Yeah.
Nobody else there that was helping him out. And I feel that like you can keep the Pete's and and Crime Face. Am I saying that right? Crime Face?
Who?
The other guy, or
Crime Face. There was someone named Crime Face involved in this.
Yeah. So
okay.
I don't want to come off like a dick. I know, but Snoop Dogg and the other commentary and the Mario Lopez. They're bringing different fan bases.
Yeah.
I get it, you know what I mean? But we need our voice to be heard, the guys like us. So myself can do it. I mean, hell, Chris Lytle, Biz Bing, there's other artists that could have, I mean, hell, they should have got Roy Jones Jr., you know what I mean? Like, there was all kinds of guys that could have fit that role, that in the future can fit that role, myself included. I feel like I'm commentary that can help represent that voice. You know what I mean? So, out of the 4 or 5 different spectacles that are going on up there, we can have a couple of hey, we want to hear some X's and O's.
By the way, I still haven't found Crime Face. I'm looking for Crime Face.
All
right.
He might have been on the earlier fights when I was in the locker room watching.
Okay, maybe that. Well, you know what? All right, so let's talk about some of this, because a lot of people would think, oh, well, Frank's not going to have seen any of this because he's too busy focusing on his fight. But I happen to know that your method of relaxing, sometimes you just flat out go to sleep. But I knew that you were probably...
Time, I took my commissioner, Jerry, with me, who was a nice guy. They had to keep an eye on me, They follow you around, and so I told Jerry, hey, man, let's go to the cafeteria. So we walked around, because it was just kind of... They had me there for whatever reason. My sneaky suspicions on why. But they had told me previously that, the main card doesn't start at 9, be downstairs at 6:30. The arena is a 5-minute walk from the hotel. So that, we just get you there at 6, 2.5 hours, before the show starts, we'll have you in the locker room. Okay, no problem. Then at about 3:45, we get a phone call that, we don't want to hear no for an answer. You're pushing back. We started looking at each other like, who's pushing back on what? You said 6:30. We need you there at 4:45. So then Malky, to his credit, it's like 6:30 is good enough. I don't care what they say. I'm like, no, I don't want to be that guy. If they're paying me, so they're my boss tonight. If they're saying I have to show up there at 4:45, they obviously that I don't. And now with all the COVID testing and everything else, insecurity, whatever the case may be. Hey, you need me there 4:45, I'll be there at 4:45. So I show up and they're 4:45. I'll send it to you when we're done doing the show, where it was just me, John Wood, and my daughter in the locker room by ourselves for 2 hours. There was no reason. And then when Steve, actually, I asked him afterwards, like, hey, what time did you get here? He's like, 6:30. They told me to be downstairs. I'm like, oh. Cool. So you only sat in the locker room for 2.5 hours before the show started. I was down there for over 4 hours before the show even. And that was a good thing I didn't follow the rules. I broke some rules because there was like, well, you can't bring food or anything. I was like, and I was like, nope. I brought my peanut butter and jelly sandwiches on. Cauliflowered up, these could stay in. I brought my, Dave's Killer Bread with peanut butter and jelly as my go-to before I fight, you know what I mean? And that's all I eat the day of.
Dave's Killer Bread. I know what Steve Cunningham did. I know what he did. He didn't admit this. He called up that commissioner and he told him, he said, hey, listen, I think I saw Oscar De La Hoya heading toward Frank Mir's room. You better get him in here early before he gets to him. That's probably what happened. See, it was psychological warfare.
Yeah, and then also, too, even like warming up, I couldn't get a straight answer. I was first told that, hey, we're going to start at 9 o'clock, the first fight, and then we'll have a show. Expect to walk at 10. And they told me, no. This is now after everybody's shown up. So at about 6:37, they're like, we're going to run all 3 of the fights, and the 4th fight will be after the show. So we'll do, Joe's fight with Ray Khan, your fight, and the 2 professional boxers are going to fight.
Yeah.
Another, no break, starting at 9, or, at 9:15, the first fight will start. So expect to fight about 9:45. Okay, cool, man, no problem. And then they came back and they saw that I was warming up, and they're like, no, 11:12. I was like, really? Yeah, go ahead and sit down. You're not going to walk till 11:12 at night. And it was funny because John Wood even looked at me and goes, well, that has to be right, because they didn't say 11:10. They didn't say 11:15.
Yeah.
They said 11:12.
Yeah.
That's a really specific number. So then we're like the UFC where, it's on a clock. There's a schedule because it's being televised.
Yeah. They
need us walking at 11:12. Then someone came by and goes, oh, no, 10:55. And so when he told me 10:55, I had already started because we thought we were fighting at 9:45. So now it's, 5 minutes till 10 when they told us the 11:12 thing. So I'm like, oh, I should sit down because I'm not going to warm up now for 2 hours. When he said that, when he came back after the 11:12 and came back and said, no, 10:55, and they left, and I look at John, I'm like, you know what? I'm starting to get a suspicion between being here so long and not getting a straight answer on when we're fighting. I think they're messing with me a little bit. You know what I mean? Somebody, whether they're doing it on purpose or not, it's affecting our trying to calculate when to warm up.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, you know what? When 10:15 hits, let's just start warming up, and we'll just keep it at 80%. When we know for sure, I'm sure we'll get a 10-minute warning. Then we'll kick it into high gear, hit our, I try to get my heart rate maxed out for 3 or 4 minutes after cruising to it for about 15 or 20 minutes to really stimulate my body and get you that second wind. That's really what it is. The second wind is you hit an oxygen debt, then your body catches up, and now you're warmed up essentially. And so, let me not burn all the sugar out of my body by warming up too much. Let me try to time this better, but I'd rather go ahead and be whole time than being caught with my pants down and not warmed up at all. And so then we jumped up and started jumping around, and then sure enough, when they came out, they're like 10:45, and that's why I looked at John. I was like, you know what? Then just go ahead and let's light it up, and we'll just let's get our blow out our lungs right now. And then they came and got us at 10:40, and so then that it was like, okay, you guys, again, the timing, whatever. But even like walking out, now this I don't think they did on purpose, but I don't know if it showed that on. First, they wheeled me out to the side of the ring. Okay, stand here. I'm like, all right. So I'm standing there, basically next to the ring on the side. I'm like, now we're going to put on a show. I'm like, so wait, an act is going up and I'm standing here? Like, you guys came and got us? And I'm out here, And then I looked and I saw that Cunningham was out there too. So I'm like, okay, this wasn't done with the intent to mess with me because they're messing with that guy too. So it's equal playing field. But being in the locker room for 4 extra hours, opponent wasn't, that was them messing with me. But then they pulled us back behind the stage, and then that wasn't good enough. No, be over here. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that once again, different crews. You had the people working in the music area, the people working the TV working. So at one point, 2 of the production people started arguing with each other where I needed to go and how to go. And then I looked like, you need to go here and go here. And the other person goes, no, wait. And I stopped and I looked at it. And I even said something like, you realize both of you were telling me different things? Like, who's who? What am I supposed to do? Then they were like, well, I'm talking to so-and-so. Well, I'm talking to now they're having this debate going on. And then I was like, you know what? I can't get pulled into this. I'm about to go into war. I have to be focused on that. So I stepped back. And then, and then at the end, John caught it. I didn't. The girl was standing there on the walkway, Snoop Dogg and Ice Cube or have chairs. And like, okay, so now I'm standing here, but you're just going to walk around the ring and go up the thing. I'm all. So even though I'm standing on the ramp, the little walkway, don't use the ramp. I'm just standing here as a checkpoint. And then I'm going to walk around. And then John was like, is someone clear the crowd around the ring? Are we just supposed to fight our way through the crowd? And they're like, oh, I'll clear them. So then she goes, go. And so I was like, oh, shit. I took off. But then I guess she said, stay. And John heard her tell me stay, but I didn't hear her. So then she's running. No, you can't go. And then someone else ran in front of us and goes, okay, stand here. So that's when I just walked into the ring. I'm like, you know what? I just,
Oh my God. All of this while you're trying to get in the mindset to fight. This, so you just described, I can see in my head what's happening because there's one person producing a fight card and there's one person producing a concert. and those people are trying to produce together. Now, this being Triller, what they missed an opportunity. What they should have done was they should have taken the fight card producer and the music concert producer and put them in the ring and had them fight. That sounds like the biggest grudge match of the evening right there.
I'm sure they would have went to blows because it sounds like there's a lot of confusion. So, but again, that's life itself, and my daughter's watching. And so I can now show her, hey, here's an example of things just, go, don't go. Okay, sit down, stand up. No. Okay, get ready to fight. No, you're not going to fight right now. You're on in 15 minutes. And so, a lot of people would say, hey, this is not fair. Use, that awful word that I hate people have in their vocabulary. I'm just like, this is life. Life is throwing you curveballs. It becomes a math problem. Keep your emotions in check. Do whatever you need to do to get through it and get past it and get on, And that's all I did.
And I don't think they realized how challenging this was for you. Not only do you have this craziness going on, for the first time in your fight career, there's the real possibility that one of your corner people could be distracted by Justin Bieber. That's never been a factor in a fight of yours before. You think about that?
Yeah, if they really wanted to go ahead and distract me, they should have done that. If they would have came in the locker room going, hey, Frank, if anybody wants to meet Bieber, autographs, I'd have been down to one cornerman.
Yeah.
Which we were already down. That was, different things. That was another thing that really sucked about the fight.
Yeah.
And this was not on Triller at all. And it just, because of the modern era of COVID, only allowed 2 cornermen. So only my daughter and John were actually in my corner. My father and my son, who I wanted to be in the corner with us. My father's always in my corner. We're resorted to having to be up inside the booth. And you know what? I was mostly happy with Triller. But here's something that annoyed me. I'm going to talk a little shit to get vengeance here. At the weigh-ins, right, they invited so many people inside the room to watch our weigh-ins. And I get it. They wanted to invite high-profile celebrities and, Instagram models or, whatever the case is, influencers. So they told me, don't even bother bringing anybody because they're going to be stuck in the back. Just you come to the weigh-in. And then it was like, well, I was like, I'm my wife or my daughter or somebody with me, I'm not going there by myself,
Somebody's got to carry the backpack. They don't know how these things work.
So then when I get there, I'm the only person that listened to that and brought the one person. The fighter there or all the other contestants have translators, production people videotaping them. And I'm looking around. I'm like, so wait a minute. So that's okay that each person here has 5, 6, 7 people with them, and I get the one. So then I was able to get a hold of Jennifer. I was like, well, come here, come in the locker room with me if you can't go out there. So then when I go out there, I look, I'm like all these influencers have 15 buddies with them. You know what I mean? I'm like, wait a minute. So you guys are okay with the fact that, and I get it, you're trying to limit it down. I mean, this is the moment for the people that are up here competing. I don't know how the other warriors look at it, but this is a moment that I always share with my wife and my children and the people I train with. Any leeway to bring those? And in fact, when I was going out to the weigh-in, they told me only bring one. So I brought Bella with me to go out there. John stayed in the locker room. I thought my wife and everybody else was going to have to stay outside and then just see me as I walked out. Really, Uncle Eddie and my dad took a different, bus. They, over. And when they got there, they walked in and they were just sitting there on the floor. So when Jennifer's like, hey, so we'll meet up afterwards, they're like, where are you? We're just sitting here. So that's why Jen's like, you know what? Screw this. I'm going in.
Yeah.
So my wife walked in and saw everybody else there, which that would have really burned me at the end if I'm like, wait a minute, everybody else has, the cameraman that's holding the mic for one of these Instagram guys, him and his 3 buddies are here, but my wife and my children are locked out. I'm one of the reasons people are here, guys. I mean, obviously I bring people there. Look at what I'm getting paid compared to what the other guys are getting paid. You weren't doing me any favors, And so that upset me and saved them from my wrath was that when I was up on stage and I'm realizing what's going on, I hear my wife and I hear my kids, Ronan, I can hear him scream, and I look over, picture me smiling and pointing like, that's my baby. You know what I mean? There's times where you just can't follow the rules. You have to just burn your own path. My wife did it. She got herself up there, and brought my kids there. And, so that made me very happy. You know what I mean? But,
hey, listen, again, Triller, I mean, I'm trying to help them out. They're missing some more sizzle here. Mrs. Mir against an obstinate Usher is also very compelling content for the next undercard. Don't you agree?
no one wants to face Mrs. Mary. She's mad. So
I've
that
seen
made
it.
me happy, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so that worked out. That was something that kind of a little bit, just because, like, even where they put the booth for my family to be able to watch the fight was completely on the back side where you couldn't see anything, only from the TV. But they had booths up top that had nice, and I understand. You know what I mean? There's a hierarchy to this. There's the people that are, the movers and shakers of the world that are bigger fish than I am. But I'm thinking, okay, there's only, 8 guys on the main card, and so 4 or 5. You can't let our families be kind of more of a part of it as far as a contribution to that. The people here watch me bleed. You know what I mean? I'm putting my health on the line here for you guys to make money and compensated. But I mean, the memories of having my family a part of it, especially who I am and what I basically, embrace and instill, is that, this is a family thing, that everything I do is family, and so to not be more leveraged. And it wasn't, I mean, look, Melissa Henricks, again, and I probably keep saying her name a lot. She was from the WEC days. She was basically the Donna of WEC. She did phenomenal. For the most she could do for me, she did. Matchmaker was really awesome. He really, I mean, like I tell everybody again, when I first had the opponent change, they came up to me, and this is also Cunningham on him too. It's whatever I wanted. As far as they're like, hey, look, you're not asking for more money, so that's wow. That was just, hey, look, I'm here to fight. That's what I said I'd fight for. I'm gonna. But then they were like, hey, do you want less rounds? Do you want shorter rounds? Do you want bigger gloves? Do you want headgear? You tell us, because we realize that Cunningham is a tougher fight for you than Tarver. Tarver was a much more winnable than what we're giving you right now. And so, hey, what can we do to help you out? And, obviously the only thing I chose was like, okay, going 10 rounds against a 2-year-old, that actually weighs in my favor. Going 10 rounds with a former champion who's still in phenomenal shape, which, just look at the weigh-ins, guys, or even watch how he fought. The guy didn't lose a step. He's in good shape. Not my. And so I asked to go 6 rounds. I'm like, no, don't change the rounds, because I want it to be a boxing match. I want to be not considered a professional boxer as part of my repertoire. And I don't want to change the gloves. 10 ounces are held. There's 2.5 bigger times than what I'm used to using with anyway. I need to change that. But 6 rounds is awesome. And the other side completely had agreed to it. Peter was the one that even suggested it. So, there's some really good people that were working for Triller that were trying to help me out.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me, I want to ask you about some of these just random things on this card to see if you had, because part of it was I was, tracking the photos on your Instagram, things like that. Picture of you and the family and Nature Boy Ric Flair. Now, Ric Flair's part of this was I guess he was officiating a slap fight between 2 very large men who took turns slapping each other, just open face slapping. Were you familiar with the phenomenon of slap fighting?
I'm always surfing the web. Yes, I've seen many highlight videos, and so I was very aware of that sport. In fact, drawing a blank now on the Hawaiian guy.
He's the big bad Hawaiian world champion. Well,
I took a picture with him to my Instagram. Yes. You can see here I'm a 280-pound guy, and he made me look like his little brother. So very big, powerful guy. In fact, when I took a picture with him, I said, hey, of all the sports there are in the world, you might be able to have the privilege of saying it's one that I would hesitate to do, that I'm not looking to go and jump into that anytime soon. So.
Yeah, I saw this, and my first thought was, how many minutes into this does somebody's eardrum burst?
Can you pull it up real quick? Because I feel bad because I'm using my phone, because we have the problem with my iPad. I can't look him up real fast. So I'd like to just give him credit. He was extremely classy, a gentleman. I think a lot afterwards, and he took pictures with the kids, and he was completely humble and a cool guy.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to pull that up. I'm going to get this. Now, while I'm doing this, tell me about this other person. There's a photo of you and Bella, and Noah Beck. Now, I have no idea who that is. Yeah. I'm not sure you do either. And he has 7.3 million Instagram followers. What's the story here?
All I know is that afterwards, when I walked up to them, I was sitting there and Chuck was there. So me and Chuck and I are speaking, up real quick.
Chuck Liddell.
Right, Chuck Liddell, sorry. And so, he had said, Heidi was still tired because they'd flown in that morning and just didn't have much sleep. So she was up in the room sleeping. And so we're having a whole conversation, hey, man, I heard that you're going to, are you going to fight De La Hoya? He goes, no. And they just, hey, they want to throw some money and fight one of these YouTube stars. He's making jokes and whatnot. But he was in good spirits and good health. And I could see the clamoring, but with Jennifer Cage and Bella, they're like, and they're like, I was like, no. Bella's very much like me, so it's very few times I get to see her act like a kid, be animated, be goofy.
Right.
And you could tell she was embarrassed. So then Jennifer walked up to me and goes, sorry, Chuck, real quick, Frank. That guy over there, Noah, Beck, or Noah, she goes, that's somebody that she follows and knows who he is. Go get a picture with him. I'm like, okay, let's go up. She goes, she's embarrassed. I'm like, oh, okay, shit. And so then I was like, okay, I'm going to have to go get some dad points here. So I stood there. And it was funny because I automatically liked him because when I stood there, a bunch of 3 or 4 friends, they all looked over at me and he goes, oh, man, shit, Frank Mir. And not that I think you should, oh, shit, it's Frank Mir. But we're at a weigh-in. We're at a event. And they were respectful that they knew who I was. It's the point you're like, oh, man, shit, Frank Mir, this is cool. They didn't blow me off. They didn't, they obviously have, a billion times more followers than I have. So in their world, I'm not as big a fish as I am in my world. They were still respectful, and also that, I'm older than they are. So they were, he acted like a respectable young man. So I'm like, in my head, I'm like, oh, you checked off the box. You know what I mean? Like, you're acting with respect. You know what I mean? You know how to behave.
Yeah.
Somebody who's your elder. And so I was like, hey, real quick, my daughter's a huge fan of yours. Would you mind, taking pictures? She goes, yeah. You'll take pictures. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Right? So that's why actually it's funny because the first picture, I just stood in there with Bella and I realized, I'm cramping her style right now. Like, it was good job, get me in there, but now, hey, Dad, beat it, get lost. So I stepped out and said, oh, shit, all right, sorry, You
don't want to have to make it awkward where she has to crop you out of the photo. There's still like kind of a phantom arm there, but you get cut out. Yeah, you don't want that.
Yeah, I grabbed him by the back of the neck to let him know it.
Is this guy's name, okay, he is Da Crazy Hawaiian, and his actual name is Lane Kalikiwikiwa Vernes, I believe is the name.
Cool. He was a cool guy, real nice guy. I mean, it's funny because probably most people who saw that guy at a bar, you would probably think he was a dick or, you could tell the guy. If you get beat up by him from just the 5-minute exchange I had with him, if you tell me you got in a fight with him, I'm going to probably say you deserved it. You were being a dick.
Yeah.
You could tell that, obviously he's but as far as being a warrior code of being a gentleman, he definitely embraced that.
So let me ask you about the main event because I realized you had just gotten done fighting shortly before that. But Jake Paul, the man around which this whole thing is built, the guy that you and I only knew had a lot of millions of YouTube subscribers, but it kind of had to be explained to us more than that, what it was he did exactly. Coming into this fight, I remember I was asked about, before you were on this card, I was asked about this by a ESPN station on the East Coast that I do reports for, for UFC fight weeks and things like that. And the guys that always had me on said, hey, I'm hearing this guy, Jake Paul, the YouTube guy, he may fight Ben Askren. What do you think? Now, all I knew was that Jake Paul had already boxed once. I didn't even really know against who or what, but I just immediately was like, well, no, matching him against any elite level MMA fighter is probably not going to go very well. I didn't really look into it or anything like that. Well, obviously you get added to the card, it gets real, the fight's made, people are talking about it. And I start looking into this thing. And even then, I was doing MMA Junkie with Goes and George, and Goes actually picked Jake Paul. He thought Jake Paul could win this fight. And I just said, well, here's my problem with it. I don't understand where the base of logic, like where you can even start to assess it. Like I get saying, okay, Ben Askren you can't get a more pure wrestler than that. And you look at the way he won his 19 whatever fights, and he's, if you're picking formidable strikers, he's going to be near the bottom. I get all that. But you're telling me, he's going to fight a guy that's 24 years old. That's real young. You're telling me he's going to fight a guy who's going to be bigger. Okay, that's an advantage. But then you're going to tell me he's had two boxing.
Paul was smaller. Yeah.
Was he smaller?
Yeah. Askren had they made Askren cut. I mean, for Askren, I think it was 10.
Okay, but
he might be taller. But as far as
yeah, fair enough. But what I keyed in on was like, but here's the problem: the guy that you're asking me about has had two boxing matches, one against a guy who used to play in the NBA, and another guy who just has one name that is a
influencer.
Like how do I just don't even, to me, you just have to give an incomplete to that. Like, I don't even know how you begin to predict what that's going to look like. What did you think what did you think going in? And then what did you think coming out of it?
Well, going into it at first, initially, I was like, well, he hasn't fought anybody, so he'd be very nervous. He fought a celebrity, his first fight, tube star, or and it was KSI, whatever his name was, right? And then he fought the basketball player. So I'm like, okay, well, at least he fought a legitimate athlete in the second fight, but an athlete who's never been punched in the face. I'm not a fighter either. So picking Ben Askren, I was like, okay, well, as far as legitimate champions in our sport, you probably pick the champion that has the worst hands. That you pick a guy who is worse at stand up that is also a champion in MMA. I can't think of one, and so Askren is one of the best wrestlers who ever fought MMA and a phenomenal grappler, but his striking was always just to get his hands on you, and he was just so good everywhere else that it made up for it, and that's why he was so dominant. So when it first started happening, who fights in bare knuckle fighting also, he's down there in Florida. He's also managed by First Round Management. He and I had a conversation when he was in town. He came down with Ricky, who's the First Round Management's basically director of their boxing division. And so we're sitting there, we're having a conversation. And, now I'll let the cat out of the bag. Hopefully doesn't get Yuli in trouble if you sign into India. Yuli was just like, hey, I took the kid lightly, Jake. And, I just showed up basically after a night of hanging out. I wasn't training, and they said he needed 5 rounds. So I jumped in there. I said, he got me a little bit, a few of the rounds. Like, he did really well. And so he goes, I've showed up since and took him seriously. And it turned out exactly how it should have turned out. That first day, he caught me off guard because he has great conditioning and, he's athletic and he does what his coaches are asking him to do, even though he has a limited skill set. You know what I mean? And so, can you still hear me? I think there's something with that.
I can hear you, but something just changed with your audio.
Headphones just died.
Okay. Yeah, it's fine. Let me just turn your volume up here a little bit. It's actually a cleaner sound because we have been dealing with the clipping.
Okay.
The whole show. Yeah, this is actually a cleaner sound. Can you get maybe even a little closer to your phone or turn your volume up? Frank's readjusting his phone there. Yeah, that's fine. Let me turn you up on my end.
How's that?
Yeah, this should be good. Go ahead and talk.
So anyways, so I was aware of the fact that striking-wise, he might actually be doing better at striking as far as pad work and sparring than Jake it was. And so that's why I even said, hey, if the fight goes 1 or 2 rounds, there's a strong favor towards Jake. Because he's younger, less injuries, and and the amount of punches he can throw. But as the fight wears on, the experience of Askren, he's going to be able to sag on him and carry and drag. I thought if it went past the second round, that Askren would do well. The only thing that made me hesitate to completely bet on Jake, because I had friends betting on the fight, going, "Hey, my odds came out in such a favor for Cunningham." They're like, "Okay, I'm going to take you, and who should I take, Askren or Paul?" And I was like, "Man." I can see telling you Jake, so that way, like just a sweep of the, the unexpected to win,
but I'm not comfortable knowing, and we still don't know that answer, what happens when he gets cracked, because that's a part of fighting, is that you're going to get punched eventually, and how do you handle getting hit in the face? We don't really know what Jake Paul will do if someone starts putting the heat on him and he's taking some abuse, because his first fight was against a celebrity YouTuber, right, that didn't go but past the first round. I don't remember. The second fight with the basketball player, he knocked him out in the first round. Never really took a shot. There was a huge size discrepancy in that, and obviously he was just as unskilled as Jake Paul. And then, so I'm sitting there going, I got to think that if the fight goes 2 or 3 rounds, even though he doesn't hit hard and he's not fast, Askren is going to hit him and rough him up a little bit. How does he respond? If I knew for sure that he would respond to adversity with coming out fighting, I would say, oh, you know what? He's actually the safer bet. But because I know that Askren can be roughed up and fight, Robbie Lawler cracked shots with 4-ounce gloves, and he was able to survive. We know that he can deal with some adversity. So that was the factor that made me not 100% sure to vote for Jake. I was like, it's still a toss-up, guys. I don't really know. And then, and still, honestly, we still don't know. Now he's fought a third time where it wasn't, that's why I think what Stephen A. Smith said something about, like, he's a legitimate boxer, don't put anybody in. I'm like, well, guys, hold on. Let's not get carried away. He's fighting very intelligently right now, picking people. I mean, the first 2 people had 0 chance of hurting him, and if they had, he basically needs to retire before he starts. Like, if even on your worst day starting out, you're not at least good enough to beat those guys, you shouldn't put gloves on to begin with. Unless you're just doing, you want to get some cardio, like you have no business fighting. Catching Askren with a punch now, that at least says, well, you know what, this might be for you. Let's get some training. Now we just need to get him in there with somebody who's a little bit better, that could rough him up. But like the guy Joe who fought earlier tonight, Raycon, like, he can't fight that guy. That guy would murder him. Like, that guy, Jake Paul has 0 chance of beating him. You know what I mean? Like, that's why, Joe and I were talking. So I'm really trying to get a fight with Jake. I'm like, come on, man. These guys.
Oh, you Frank Mir faced him.
Yeah.
When he said that.
Yeah. You think he's in his position right now because he's stupid.
Yeah.
He might act like a jackass, but him and his brother are extremely smart at promoting. They're geniuses. Look to get where they are right now with the millions of followers that they have. That wasn't an accident. You know what I mean? Like, they're smart. And already they've been very smart about who they've picked. First the influencer who had 0 fighting experience. Then they took it up a step. Pretty smart. Okay, we're not going to just fight another influencer. Let's fight an actual athlete, somebody who's athletic. So then we can sit there, and now it's like, yeah, we beat up a celebrity before, but now we're actually going to fight a real athlete, a former NBA guy who's really a great athlete, a better athlete than we are, who also has 0 experience in fighting. So, like, it's still a step up. Then you're like, okay, we're going to fight a fighter, but we're not going to fight a boxer because that would be crazy for us to fight. We're going to fight an MMA guy, not an MMA, because, again, that would be crazy. Let's fight him in our boxing match, but let's see who we can pick that has the least amount of chance out of any other champion we can pick of beating us. You're not going to pick Tyrone Woodley. You're going to leave on a stretcher. You know what I mean? Like, that ain't going to work. So they found Askren. Here's a guy who's retired, whose last 2 fights are his second to last fight was the concussion loss, real bad. Let's pick him. He was never known as a slugger, never known to have power in his hands. He's not a great boxer. He's had a hip replacement, so his mobility will be down. He's older. This is a safe bet. So now I think that they're going to have to pick somebody now that's actually in the boxing world, but that's not good. That at least they sit there and go, okay, now we're evolving to keep the interest of fans, showing that our guy's evolving. But the next baby step would be to pick somebody who, only has a handful of fights, maybe, a couple amateur fights, but is considered more of a legitimate boxer now.
Yeah.
First 3 opponents, but still not dangerous enough that, that you want to fight. Picking the guy Joe, that's suicidal for them. Like, Joe, like, if you said right now that, you can bet $100,000 to win $5. Like, well, here's the $100,000. I'll go buy me a coffee though, because you have 0 chance of winning this,
Yeah.
I'm like, he walks up into the ring and blows his ankle out getting through the ropes. So like that's not that like, you know, that fight's never gonna happen. You know, Tyron Woodley calling him out. I'm like, why do you bother? Like that fight's never going to happen. You know?
Hey, I mean, look, you know, and you got to give them credit where this is concerned. For a lot of these fighters, it's going to be money.
Oh,
You know, I could see, you know, if I were Tyrone Woodley right now, I'd be
volunteer. You know what I mean? Like I would even say, hey, I'll fight with one arm behind my back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I know that why bother? You're not even going to get no one's going to retweet it from their crew. No one's going to even try to address it. It's going to be completely like, oh, okay. Anyways, you know what I mean? Like they're not going to.
Yeah. It's interesting. You're talking about a situation where it's such a strange way to build a trajectory of a career, because this is, I mean, as much as, and obviously he's dedicated to his training and all that kind of thing. So you got to give him credit where that's concerned, but it's still not his first career, right? So he wins either way because he comes out with more and more and more followers and subscribers and all that kind of thing. So
get him to where he loses, not that where he takes a chance, because that's the narrative now.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm biting on you.
No. That's what I was going to say, is that it's such a strange scenario, because for most people who they want to make their primary job fighting, it's like, how do I get to the title? You know, how do I go up? But with this, and you're laying it out, it's really kind of more like, okay, how many steps can we create between now and when the bubble actually bursts? And the bigger name you can get to when that bubble bursts, like, let's imagine this for a second. I mean, it's going to sound crazy, but let's say that you can create enough steps in there that you either get all the way up to, yes, or let's say after he's done it, let's say you get Connor involved in this. And I'm talking like in years from now. What if you could string this out for years, just to the point that he looks at it and he goes, okay, now I'm ready to cash in and have Conor McGregor take my head off.
That's a major, and I'm glad when you and I think the same on this. That's exactly what you do. And because there's a built-in fail-safe for Jake, that even if the people around him go, okay, now we're going to fight Conor, you know, eventually in 10 fights, and he keeps building up, taking these in steps that are manageable and bet fights that he should be able to win. And then he gets to the point where they put a Conor fight. Now he's making $100 million to fight Conor, right? Because if you thought Conor Mayweather was huge, if Conor and Jake Paul fought each other, that'll be the highest paid pay-per-view fight in the history of pay-per-view fights, right? But right now, they miss out on all the money on the intermittent, like the money they made tonight. Like, why leave that on the table? I would take the 5, 6 to 10 steps to build that fight, because here you're making $15-20 million, you know, in between, and then you could cash out on that big $100 million payday by fighting Conor. And the cool part for him is that he goes out there and then, you know, I mean, Conor rips his head off in the first 45 seconds, you know, gives him permanent neck damage, you know what I mean? Unless Conor wants to play with him and break every rib in his body first. So he loses. But at that point, it's like, wow, here's this celebrity. Look at his street cred that he gets to retire with, that he actually was good enough to warrant a fight that you paid for to watch him fight Conor, right?
Yeah.
You know, so he's still amongst his group of people, he's a stud. Even leaving on a stretcher, probably eating out of a tube for, you know, 8 weeks. But it's like a win-win for him. Like, and then, you know, and again, for me, the reason why I still support this, and you know, a lot of people, you know, were upset with different things about the show, and I get it. I hear you. I have eyes. I'm more in line with their character than, you know, the spectacle characters. It still brings a clean lifestyle. It's still showing and getting, I mean, I can only imagine how many young men and women right now are deciding to maybe strap on boxing because Jake Paul and Logan Paul are doing so. And if I can guide you to that life of being a warrior, that, you know me, that's my ultimate goal with a lot of people. Hey, this saved my life and gave me a direction and made me who I am. Look at the kind of family and children I'm raising because of this lifestyle. So I'm a big advocate of it. I mean, I like action movies. Why? Because guess what? Memberships at martial arts gyms always go up after, you know, Bruce Lee was in the movies. Trust me. there's a lot of guys that train martial arts right now and own gyms because they walked out of Enter the Dragon and go, I'm going to do that. So should I say Bruce Lee because he's an actor? No. I mean, millions of people he's inspired. And Jake Paul is, is he a shit talker? And is there aspects of the game that are not my style and not my cup of tea? Yeah. But he still pays for it with sweat and blood. You know what I mean? Like, if he was just drinking martinis and being, a pansy ass and showing up in the ring, fighting nobodies, that would upset me. But the fact that he makes it very public how hard he trains, he shows that I'm taking this seriously. That is something that young men and women can look at and go, hey, this guy's successful, but he works hard. You can't sit there and say the guy's sitting on his computer streaming the internet for 12 hours a day, just, screwing around. The kid they are focused and they're hard workers. And that, I feel like, whether you like what he does or not, that's something that, I can show to the youth of our country and go, hey, look, you want to be successful? There's an ingredient here that's tangible that you can look at, that you can take, whether you want to be a doctor, lawyer, or you want to be the next YouTube star. It's hard work. They both.
Yeah. And hey, it's hard work to insert yourself into the consciousness of people who not only didn't seek you out, but still don't have any idea what you do. Like me, it's like a Kardashian. I don't understand what they do, but I damn sure know who they are. And do you know when Kim Kardashian's celebrity sex tape came out, which was the first time I heard of her, they had to tell me she was a celebrity. She was a celebrity because I was told she was a celebrity. You see what I'm saying? And it's like now, I mean, I can name every Kardashian. I've never seen that show, but I know their name, like that kind of thing, So, yeah.
Brothers are entertaining. They've created definitely a market and an image and a brand. They have their brand, and they put themselves out there. You know what I mean? Like, that's also too another person that we didn't really get to touch on too much. And maybe it's 50 years. I shared the locker room with Raycon.
Mm-hmm.
And, at first, again, I like people trying into martial arts and getting out there. But when I looked over and I saw him warming up, I'm like, whoa. He honestly was probably only in the gym for 3 or 4 weeks training. When they say that, it's true. This guy had never thrown a punch 6 weeks ago in his life in another human being. For him to, whatever side you want to be on, whether it was Raycon's side or Joe's side, who you thought was at fault, for him to pick up the gauntlet that was laid down and sit there and go, I accept to fight a professional boxer in a boxing ring with no experience. And he didn't go out there and clown around and go, well, I don't give a shit. He actually, in his mind was like, I'm going to give a performance. I'm going to go out and fight. A lot of people talk trash. A lot of people sit there, there's lots of guys that sit at home and, oh, what would I do? But the minute you put a contract on the table and go, cool, sign this and we're going to see you April 17th. More often than not, the shit talkers ain't showing up. You know what I mean? They're not. Not gonna. They don't want to cash that check. You know what I mean? With their ass. And so, you know what? He taped up his hands. He warmed up. You could tell he took it seriously. I mean, he saw me eating, and he asked, Tom, his trainer, like, should I be eating? Like, in fact, it was funny. I went and put my shorts on, and he knew that I was fighting right after him, and he hadn't put his shorts on yet. He goes, "Oh, are we ready?" No, I'm going to stretch out a little bit, and I only brought my fight shorts to put on, so I'm just using those because I'm not stretching my jeans. You know what I mean? Listen to your trainer. Everything he's told you is right so far. But you can see that he was paying attention to me, the other fighter in the room, and going, "Oh, should I be doing that? Should I do that too now?" And so he was really, the fact. I mean, and look, he's not dumb. He knows he had zero chance to win that fight. He's fighting a guy who's had, 10 professional fights, all wins by knockout. And if you want to say that maybe Joe didn't fight anybody, because I think one of the announcers tried to say that only one guy's had a winning record. Well, he's still been training for a few years more than obviously the Raycon. I mean, you can see that when we went out there. And on Joe's part too, I really respected how he handled it. He could have went out there and been goofy and clowned Raycon, drop his hands, okay, but he went out there and it was almost like watching an experienced fighter helping train an unexperienced fighter in the gym. Where it's like, all right, we're going to spar. You're okay. Hey, keep your hands up, buddy. All right, here comes the punch. All right, I need you to move to the side. It was almost like he gave him like some live sparring. And, you know, even when in fact, I don't think we'll have to ask, maybe we can get Joe on the show. I didn't know to ask him afterwards. The punch that he knocked him down with was a left hook at the first shot. It looked like from in the locker room when I was watching on TV that he meant to throw a body shot and just Raycon's body, the way he moved away from the body shot, hit him with a hook to the head. And then when he jumped up, he didn't jump on him to embarrass him, make a highlight reel. He started throwing at his body, like, all right, man, like, recover a little bit. I mean, and to the point where even towards the end of the second round, Joe did pick it up a little bit and start throwing. I still think that was a respect thing. It's like, okay, well, I'm not going to carry you and make it look like I didn't try to fight you. So that way it's embarrassing that, like, well, yeah, you walked in there, but the guy didn't even try.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try, but I'm not going to try to hurt you. I'm going to get you out of here. You're not going to go the distance. And so both guys, I thought in another fight of the night that I thought there was no losers. Were between Joe and I'm like, wow, Raycon, hats off to you. I mean, you're a musician. And you showed up and fought a fighter in a fight. And then Joe going, you know what? He could have been on ESPN if he wanted to go ahead and just completely spin his chin and put him over the ropes with a punch. It was very well within his capabilities to do so, and he didn't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was a crazy night. Obviously the festivities carried on for a couple of days, Frank. I wasn't expecting this. Next, I'm looking on somebody's Instagram. All of a sudden I see Ronan's run off and gotten a tattoo. What happened?
Ronan didn't get a tattoo.
Oh, it wasn't.
Cage did. In fact, I almost debated it, but I figured if Ronan got a tattoo, if we did the snake bite on him, I'll probably get that was a CPS or CPA, where the Child Protective Services, CPS.
Frank, these are two different sets of problems. It's not necessarily good when your CPA calls, but it's worse when CPS knocks on the door. Yeah.
CPS knocks on my door because I'm letting my 11-year-old get a tattoo.
Yeah.
Bella has wanted a tattoo, and she wanted to get a wave on her ribs because she's a water baby. Even though it's funny, she's born in the desert like I am. But every time we ever go to the beach, you can't get her out of the water. So she loves to go. Her and her mom share that they're fascinated with it. She's part of that group that sends her a bracelet because she goes and picks up trash and donates money for that, to clean the oceans. And so.
Well, that's something she didn't inherit from you, because Frank Mir doesn't enjoy standing in the shallow part of the ocean, does he?
In water, as long as I can see and it's daytime, we're good.
Okay.
But Pacific Ocean, you can't even get me to go ankle deep. The only way you can get me to go out in the water is I don't let my kids go deeper than me. So wherever they're playing, I play a little bit deeper, because if there is something there, I'm, eat me first type mentality.
Yeah.
I'm terrified of the ocean, but so thank God buoys, because I'll have a heart attack. But
so she gets a tattoo and Cage gets a tattoo.
Getting there. So she got on her ribs, and she's 17. She'll be 18 here in July, and I've always been a bend don't break kind of person. Obviously, her mother and I both have tattoos. I just told her, I'm like, look, obviously you can do it on your own, and here in a couple months. But if you want to get one, we had Easter, who's Dr. Weeks, my chiropractor, and one of my good friends. His wife, girlfriend, for all sex and purposes, married, right? She's a tattoo artist, so we're like, oh, it would be cool to have a friend of the family do the tattoo, and just pick something that that represents you. Obviously nobody's name, until unless you're having their kids, But so she picked the wave, and that's what she did. So at the same time, Cage also got the. So those at home, look, I'm getting.
Yes.
All right. That's a tattoo that the Rivera men in Jennifer, and it kind of started off. I'm not going to lie, with not the greatest of meaning. There's it's a gang member type of ink work for it goes back 30, 40 years ago. That part of the life of the Riveras, Ortegas, is no longer exists. Nobody's affiliated that way anymore. So, but it started becoming more of a family tattoo that all the men and cousins and and brothers and uncles were getting the tattoo. So now it has a family incantation more than a gang, even though, like I said, it didn't start out with maybe the greatest of meanings, but now it means it's a snake bite is what it represents, Northern California type of thing. So I have it done because, obviously I married a family, and both Jennifer's father and her uncle accepted me as part of the group. And then our oldest Marcus has it done, and so Cage, being a descendant, he's also a Rivera, from his mother. He wanted it done, so I was like, well, we're here with the tattoo artist. Instead of doing it the way that all of us have done it, which is the old-fashioned, poke with get a Bic lighter and heat up a needle and stab it with some. He did it with an actual tattoo gun, which was cool. But in keeping with the tradition, Uncle Eddie, who gave me mine, gave his father or his brother the tattoo, and cousins, and his son did the tattoo. So
My goodness, what a wild family vacation this turned into.
We all just we're an interesting family, I guess.
You sure are. Now, at any point, did you try to steer Bella toward the American Shaman logo? That might have been a missed opportunity.
Yeah, I know. If it represents more in her life at a different stage, maybe we'll talk. But right now the wave was just less is more.
All right. Well, let's have American Shaman settle for a plug then. Why don't we conclude here by mentioning the fine folks over there? I'll turn it over to you for that.
Yeah, look, go on mereamericanshaman.com and you can see all the different supplements that I use, specifically in the CBD department, that my children use. I use. See that, obviously at the weigh-ins, my health has only been improving drastically in the last 18 months. Besides other things I've done, like BioAccelerator, a big day-to-day ability to deal with inflammation and anxiety. I've been using the CBD, and all the products are phenomenal. Please check them out. And then the other one is Mitrospec. Please click on their site. I think Frank 20 is also a discount there. You can get 20% off if you click that, and you can check out their products. And I'm huge, look, I don't go a day now without taking kratom. I get my blood work done all the time. So if anybody says it might do something to your liver, I used to have a problem with pain pills, so I know what liver enzymes, elevated test looks like. My last test came back bulletproof. It's good. My kidneys are awesome. And so I get through daily pain. Get through it. It gives me all boosts of energy and whatnot, clarity of mind with the kratom. So kratom's an awesome product. Premier American Shaman, and again, thank you for that. You guys really helped me get this fight. Another shout out to BioAccelerator. If you guys are interested at all in stem cell, it's done wonders for me. The voodoo is real, man. The voodoo is real. Please ask me any questions on my social media if you want. But if you have any kind of life-altering injuries or health, you can look it up, and it might fit inside the line of what BioAccelerator, what stem cell can possibly do. The BioAccelerator is, a company I extremely, advocate, vouch for. It's done wonders for me.
Well, next week, Frank and I will get back to solving the problems of the world. But this episode obviously has been focused on the events with the Triller fight card this past weekend. And again, I'll close like I began, Frank. I just am so proud of you for this. I thought it was just spectacular. And, it just, and I could just tell in your demeanor, you've done this long enough. Some fights you win, some fights you take losses. Great. I'm not saying that, but this, I guess I was gratified by seeing that you were taking from it what I thought when I saw it, which is this is a victory. This is a win right here.
When I walked inside when I walked out of the ring, I looked at Bella, and Bella was like, "Dad, you just did so awesome." In my mind, boom, already I had won.
Yeah.
I walked in that locker room, and I got to look, afterwards, walked up to the booth. My children ran up, Cage and Ronan hugged me. Marcus on the phone giving me a call. "Dad, you did phenomenal, just awesome." Then my wife just looked me in the eyes, and I could see through the look in her eyes that she was proud of me. I think as most, people could hopefully relate to me that, coming home and having children and your wife, look at you with admiration and pride is priceless. So I feel
And 48 hours later, you're telling me on the phone that you failed to fill out some school paperwork properly, and that's what you were dealing with today.
This morning we would have done the show earlier, but back to dad life, and there was some paperwork that needed to be done by the end of last week, and they gave me the phone call and told me, but I was a little distracted. So when I woke up this morning, I looked at my email and I was like, oh, back to the grind.
Back to dad life. All right. Well, let Frank get to bed. Me too. This has been enjoyable. We're going to put this thing out immediately so everybody can hear it from us first. And Frank really pulling back the curtain on the Triller fight card. Once again, subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already, youtube.com/phone booth fighting. Please like and subscribe. You can get our audio version of our podcast wherever podcasts are available, iTunes and Stitcher and the like and all that, Spotify. And shoot us a 5-star rating, if you will. That always helps us grow the show over there on iTunes. For Frank Mir, I'm Richard Hunter, and we'll see you right back here next time for Phone Booth Fighting.